What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the Magic Square Night Tracer, the Ocular Max Incursus, and the Zeta Toys Blitzkrieg, all versions of a Masterpiece Scale Onslaught. Now, these came out a few years apart. This one came out back in 2016, and this is the metallic version, so that came out a little bit later, but the original figure was 2016. This guy, I did a review in January of 2020, so it might have been end of 2019 is when it came out. So about 4 years apart here. And then this guy just came out in March of 2025, so another 5 years apart here. So really a lot of time has passed between the release of these. But we're still going to do this comparison. As I always mention, I try to be as objective as possible in these comparisons, but of course there's subjectivity involved when you're comparing things like this. So if I pick one and you prefer the other, then you win. I try to do these comparisons to help people decide what direction they want to go with their collection, up to and including buying all of them if that suits your needs. Now, with that being said, I just want to mention this is the metallic version of the Zeta Toys Blitzkrieg. So it's got some paint on it. The original one wasn't as painted as this. And also, this is the standard version of the Ocular Max. Not the repaint they put out, and it doesn't include the add-on kit. And this is the first version. I don't know if they're planning to do another release of these in different colors, but just wanted to give that information. So with that being said, let's get started and we'll take a look at the accessories. All right, here are the accessories they come with, and kind of obvious Zeta is going to take this, but let's just go through them anyways. They all come with a blaster. The Magic Square and Ocular Max are both kind of shaped and colored similarly, whereas the Zeta just kind of did their own thing. They've got a gunmetal with blue, but they all come with a gun. And then Zeta comes with two missiles, which go into the shoulder cannons or the backpack cannons, and they actually fire. It's a spring-loaded mechanism. You actually just put them right in here, and then there's a button underneath that you can press. And then we get this ramp, which can be combined in the vehicle mode to allow it to have a wider base, which basically you can put, the tank or the shuttle or whatever you want on that. And then you get these, which I'm not 100% sure if they came with the original figure, but these are to allow some base mode options. So we're going to give accessories over to Zeta. All right, next we'll talk about the gimmicks on these guys. And the Magic Square doesn't really have anything per se as far as gimmicks. The Ocular Max does have light up eyes. Put the batteries in the back of the head and you get light up eyes there. And then the Zeta Toys has a couple of things. You've got that ramp I mentioned earlier. You got the firing missiles up here. There's a few little other features. You have the flip around chest. So if you want the toy deco chest, you can flip this around and have this. So I think Zeta has a few more things built in. I'm going to give it to Zeta. All right, next let's talk about the cartoon accuracy and sculpt. In order to do that, we'll put the G1 image here so you can take a look for yourself. And this one is pretty much a no-brainer. Magic Square is going to take it. They nailed the look of the cartoon without being overly cartoonish. It still looks intimidating and cool. So I love that balance. As far as sculpt, I think I'm also going to give it to Magic Square. It's just so clean all around. They really were able to hide everything away. The Ocular Max, because it's all in one, it does suffer a little bit from parts. I'm going to talk about the stability of this guy in a second, but the Ocular Max does have lots of parts. Just because it is all in one, you tend to get some bulky parts here and there, especially in this general central area. And then the Zeta Toys, although it's pretty clean from the front, the arms have a lot of bulk built into them. And then the backpack is pretty obtrusive there. And then on the back of the legs, you got a lot of kibble. So pretty easy call for me here. I'm going to give both of them to Magic Square. All right, next we'll talk about the paint on these. When it comes to paint, the Magic Square is pretty much fully painted. There's a little bit of blotchiness here in the chest area. Maybe not enough coats of paint, but overall it is painted fully and pretty well. Ocular Max, most of it is plastic color, so the blue and the olive green you see is just plastic. The silver accents are paint. There's a little bit of green accents here, but for the most part, it's unpainted. And then the Zeta this is the metallic version, so it actually happens to be painted. It's got the metallic blue, the olive green, and the silver. All of that is painted, including the face. Actually, all of them have painted faces, but it's pretty close. So it's really between the Magic Square and the Zeta. And surprisingly, in this particular instance, I think the Zeta has a better looking paint overall. It's just more evenly applied. Whereas on the MS, although it looks pretty good overall, the chest has some blotchy paint. I'll just show you what I'm talking about. You can see kind of uneven coats there. Now, it really doesn't show up if you put it on the shelf, but under my bright lights here for review, it's pretty easy to see that. So I'm going to give paint over to Zeta. Right, next we'll talk about the build quality on these. And when it comes to build, I think Zeta is probably on the lowest of the three. It's not bad, but there are some parts where it does get loose over time. Some of the ratchets feel a little bit cheap on it. And especially the original version, there were a lot more issues. So I think it's really between these two. When it comes to Ocular Max, they always do a really good job with their build quality. Their plastic quality is really well done. And then the design, the fact that it's just built the way it's built, it feels very solid. You never have a worry when you're transforming it back and forth. The Magic Square also is well built. However, I did have an issue here with the ratchet at the hip. One of the ratchets wasn't working right out of the box. And you can watch my unboxing, but there are a couple little places here and there where things feel a little weak. It doesn't have an issue. It's not like it doesn't work, but it doesn't feel as solid. So I'm going to give build quality over to Ocular Max. I think they just typically nail it, and this is no different. All right, now let's take a look at the articulation. In order to do that, we'll articulate each one individually so you can see how they perform. Starting off with the Magic Square. Head is on a rotating swivel, but it's also on a ball joint, so you do get the side to side. You get it all the way up to there, down to there, and it rotates around. Shoulders are turned on a friction joint, out to the side on friction, and then there's a ratcheted joint, so you can get it all the way up to there. You have a rotation at the elbow. No rotation at this bicep, but rotation at the upper elbow. You have a single jointed elbow, at least I thought it was until it did transformation. So there's actually a second joint in here, but it goes this way. It goes the other way. So it's not intended for articulation at the elbow joint. And during my review, I mentioned that it might be able to be used for a double joint, but it can't. Let's just pop that back in. We have a rotation at the wrist, in and out movement at the wrist, individually articulated fingers at 2 pins, and then on a ball joint at the base, so you do get the splay out, thumb on a ball joint, and a pin. Some of the best hands out there. Rotation at the waist, double jointed ab crunch gets you down to there. By the way, I did tighten this screw here. It was a little bit loose, not overly, but a little bit loose, and now it holds very well. So I do recommend, if you have issues with that waist ab crunch, that you tighten it. But he gets way down to there, way back. Lots of movement there. Hip skirts, you can move these out of the way. That'll allow the leg to kick up to there. The leg itself can move on its own joint. So combining the two, you can get up to there. Back to here, out to the side on friction. Actually, sorry, that is a soft ratchet. I don't know why I said friction. Out to the side on a ratchet. You have a rotation at the thigh. Double jointed knee gets you the full bend. We have ankle tilts out to the side. You have a toe tilt forward. It pegs in right here, so if you want to lock it in place, you can. And there you go for Magic Square. For Ocular Max, the head is on a ball joint, so you get forward and backward You do get side to side and it rotates around. Shoulders rotate around at the ratchet on the shoulder, out to the side on a ratchet, and also gets up to there on a ratchet. So there's 2 ratchet joints on the shoulder. This one had 1, but same articulation there. We have a rotation at the bicep. It gets hung up a little bit because of the way it's designed. You have to get some of these panels out of the way, but it can rotate there. Double jointed elbow gets you the full bend. We have a rotation at the wrist, no in and out movement at the wrist. You have individually articulated fingers at 1, 2, 3 pins. And then the thumb is on a ball joint. No articulation at the middle of the thumb, but the ball joint does work. So slightly less articulated hands on the Ocular Max. Coming down the waist, you have a waist rotation on a ratchet. Ab crunch on a hinge, it gets you down to there. Hip skirts, and this has always been awkward. If you actually fold these up, it looks a little different, so you can change the look up. But if you get the hip skirt out of the way, legs will kick up to there, back to there, out to the side, all on ratchets. So that's well done. No rotation at the thigh, but there's a rotation at the knee. So I guess you get the same effect, or a similar effect. You have a 90-degree bend at the knee on a ratchet, up to there. Ankle tilt out to here, toe tilt as well, so you can get kind of a walking pose if you need it. And finally we have Zeta, which is the oldest figure. The head is on a ball joint, so you get forward and backward, rotation and side to side. Shoulders rotate on a ratchet, goes up to there on a ratchet and up to there, so same thing. All 3 of them do that same kind of deal. Rotation at the bicep at a cut joint. 90-degree bend on a single jointed elbow. You have a rotation at the wrist. Single pin for the fingers. The fingers are separate, but because they're curled, they don't have a joint in the middle. You don't really get much out of those fingers. That's about all you can get. So definitely less articulated than the other 2. You have a rotation at the waist. No ab crunch on this guy, just a rotation. For the legs, hip skirts will move out of the way. Legs will kick up to there on a ratchet, back to there on a ratchet, out to the side on a soft ratchet. You have a rotation at the thigh around a universal. Single jointed knee gets you 90 degrees. So single jointed just like this one. Ankle tilts out to there and a toe tilt down. So just looking at the articulation, and by the way, the Zeta one, the first detent on the leg is right there. So you end up with this wide stance. And my copy, it's very back heavy, so he won't stand up unless I rotate the thighs. You have to do that, otherwise he'll fall down. So I'm going to give articulation over to Magic Square. I think they've got not only the most articulation, but some of the better movement. It just works better. So we're going to give it to Magic Square. All right, now let's talk about the transformation and engineering. When it comes to transformation, I think it's really between these 2 guys. The Zeta is kind of brute force, very simplistic. So between these 2, I do really like how Magic Square was able to get the transformation to be pretty straightforward. It's not exactly the same as the Legends version, but it's a good design. The Ocular Max, again, really nice design. It's an all-in-one figure, so a lot of the pieces and the overall parts that are made are meant to allow you to go to all-in-one mode for a combined mode. So there's a little bit more going on here. But I do think the design on this is pretty cool. So I think I'll give transformation over to Ocular Max. I just enjoy transforming it. And overall, it's pretty straightforward. When it comes to engineering, though, I gotta give it to Magic Square. This is just absolutely incredible what they're able to pull off here. The fact that it's so clean in robot mode, so clean in the vehicle mode, and it still does the combined mode transformation. The only thing that's separate is the chest plate. Now it's cool that they worked in the chest plate, but it just ends up being too small, and you end up, maybe needing the add-on kit. So I'm going to give engineering over to Magic Square, but we'll give the transformation over to Ocular Max. All right, and here they are in their vehicle modes. And overall, it didn't actually take me this long to get here. I would say, again, the transformation on the Ocular Max, probably the smoothest, just engineered well, followed by this one and then this one. But taking a look at the vehicle modes, I do like the rubber tires on the Zeta. That is nice. But the overall shape and look of the vehicle, I think it just looks really strange. It's a very strange looking truck. And then this proportion on the cannon on the top, I think is a little strange as well. So I'm going to rule this one out, although I do like the rubber tires. I'm going to rule that out. I think it's really between these two, and they're really close. I mean, they both look really good in vehicle mode. Nice long trailer. The Ocular Max is a little bit longer. They both have the rotating and lifting turret. The Ocular Max has rear view mirrors on it, whereas the Magic Square does not, because they were going more for the Toon look. They both have the camo. I had forgotten about the fact that this had camo on it. I just didn't remember that. So they both have that. Really close here. So I'm going to give it a tie between the Magic Square and Ocular Max. I think they both have a really good looking vehicle mode. This one's a little bit heavier just because it's got more stuff in it. But overall, I'll give them a tie. All right, next we'll talk about the costs on these three. And as always, I use the prices from ages 3 and up, since they don't monkey with the prices after they post them. And the Magic Square, to my surprise, was $236 on their website. The Ocular Max Incursus was $160, and the Zeta Toys was $130. So we're going to give cost over to Zeta Toys. Now, that being said, I didn't pay $236. I didn't even play close to that. I paid $155, I think, directly from Magic Square. I bought it right off their website. I'm not sure why the price difference is so much between US and Canada retail versus Magic Square's website. I'm sure it has to do with shipping and import, but it's a big difference. So I recognize that, but I'm still going to give it over to Zeta. Even at the $155 price point, Zeta still would have won. So we'll give it to them. All right, and the final factor in this comparison is the members' choice category, where I asked my members which one they prefer just based on their own personal preference and no other factors. And as I expected, the Magic Square is going to win the members' choice category. So final thoughts on the comparison. You can just see the score there, and Magic Square is going to take this one. And no surprise there to me anyway. I was expecting them to win this. I think what was surprising, though, is that Ocular Max didn't pick up as many points this time. And I think whatever they did pick up, I did a versus between these two a long time ago, many years ago. And I think Ocular Max won that. And there were a couple things that Zeta was still doing right at that time, which was accessories and gimmicks. But they lost the points they were getting over to Magic Square. Now, had we taken this guy out of the comparison, I put it in just because I thought it was interesting. Also, I had never looked at the metallic version, so it was worth a look. But if we had taken the Zeta out, these two would have tied on accessories. I think Ocular Max would have taken the gimmicks. And then the rest of the points would have remained the same. They wouldn't have gained any other points. So they still would have lost in this comparison. But I still think it's a really good figure. I really enjoyed this version of Onslaught. It's a fun figure to mess with. So I think if you're getting these, there's 3 really good options. I think these two are kind of the better ones out of the 3. This guy's really meant for combined mode, right? That's where he shines. Really goes well in combined mode, but not really great in individual modes. So either of these options, I think you'd be happy. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.